Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to uncover the psychological programming that keeps incredibly smart, super hardworking people stuck at the exact same income level for their entire lives. We often tell ourselves, well, I'm just not wealthy because I lack the talent, or maybe I just haven't worked hard enough yet. But the truth, it's something entirely different. You're not broke because you lack effort. The reality, as we'll see today, is that you were programmed to be exactly where you are before you even really understood what money was. So stick with me, because over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the precise psychological wiring that literally dictates our financial lives, and more importantly, how we can finally break out of it.
Think about the last time you got a raise at work, or, maybe it was a holiday bonus or just some unexpected extra cash. Now, really think about what happened to it. If you're kind of like most of us, that extra money just vanished into thin air, right? And usually it doesn't disappear because of some massive emergency or a huge spike in your rent. It disappears because of a very specific, deeply ingrained psychological symptom. We love to blame inflation or bad luck, but the real culprit? It's working quietly right there in the background of our minds.
Now that phenomenon actually has a name. It's called Parkinson's Law of Money. And basically, it's the idea that our financial needs expand automatically to meet whatever income we generate. It's crazy, right? You make an extra $1,000 a month, and suddenly, magically, your lifestyle just requires an extra $1,000 to maintain. But here's the thing we have to understand. Parkinson's Law of Money isn't the actual trap. It's really just the surface-level symptom. The real trap goes so much deeper into our neurological wiring.
Listen to this staggering statistic. 93%. 93% of people are completely programmed to stay at their exact income level their entire lives. Honestly, that's wild. But it's not an accident, and hey, it's definitely not a life sentence either. It happens because of 3 specific psychological traps that secretly govern our decision-making. So if we want to change our financial future, understanding these 3 traps is absolutely crucial.
Let's get right into trap number 1, the scarcity loop, and how environment rewires your brain. To really get this, we have to jump back to 1968, when a psychologist named Walter Mischel ran the famous marshmallow test. You've probably heard of it. You put a kid in a room with a marshmallow, tell him, hey, if you wait 15 minutes, you get 2 marshmallows. The traditional conclusion, which they tracked over 40 years, was that the kids who could hold out had higher SAT scores, better incomes, lower stress. The takeaway seemed super simple, right? Delayed gratification equals success. But wait, here's the fascinating twist that usually gets buried. When researchers repeated this exact experiment specifically on low-income children, those kids had a significantly lower ability to delay gratification. And it definitely wasn't because they weren't disciplined or smart. It was because their environment had essentially trained them to grab whatever was available right now, because in their world, tomorrow it might genuinely be gone. It wasn't impatience. It was a literal survival mechanism. This brings us to cognitive bandwidth. Basically, this is the mental resource we use for long-term thinking, impulse control, and strategic planning. Growing up in an environment where money was scarce, where paying the bills was a constant stress, and you always heard, money doesn't grow on trees, that environment automatically wires your brain for scarcity. It's like a heavy weight on your mental processor. So the scarcity mindset isn't just some abstract philosophy. It is a physical, neurological state. And the scariest part, that wiring follows you to your next paycheck. It dictates your choices even when you actually start making more money. Okay, moving on to trap number 2, the anchor effect. This is the invisible baseline dictating your worth. To explain this one, I want to share a really fascinating experiment by Nobel Prize-winning psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. So they brought in a group of people and had them spin a literal wheel of fortune. For the first group, the wheel landed on the number 10. Then the researchers asked this group a completely unrelated question. They asked, what percentage of African countries are in the United Nations? The folks who spun the number 10 guessed, on average, about 25%. Keep that in the back of your mind. Next, they bring in a second group. This group spins the exact same wheel, but this time it lands on the number 65. When asked that exact same question about African countries in the UN, this second group guessed an average of 45%. Think about the terrifying realization of what just happened there. A completely random number, just a random spin of a wheel, heavily influenced their answers about an entirely unrelated factual question. This exposes a massive vulnerability in human psychology. Our brains just naturally lock on to arbitrary initial numbers to make really big, complex decisions. So when we apply this to money, the anchor effect explains almost everything about our earning ceilings. The very first number you ever associated with wealth, maybe it was your parents' salary or your first hourly wage, that became your permanent psychological anchor. Your brain has literally been making every financial decision relative to that exact anchor ever since. This is exactly why people who grew up around wealth feel totally comfortable asking for a $500,000 salary, while someone with the scarcity anchor feels overwhelming guilt just asking for a $5,000 raise. Your anchor does not care about your work ethic or your shiny college degree. It only cares about staying consistent with your internal definition of normal. And this, right here, is why lottery winners statistically lose everything and bounce right back to their baseline wealth within just 5 years. That anchor violently pulls them back down.
All right, let's look at trap number 3, the identity economy. This is the trap sitting right underneath it all. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely spent years studying this, and his conclusion is just profound. He says people do not make decisions based on logic, they make decisions based on identity. They basically just do what a person like them would do. So if your internal identity is, I'm a person who grinds and works hard for every single dollar, well, you're going to subconsciously make sure you work hard for every single dollar. You will literally reject a completely logical opportunity to build passive income simply because passive income doesn't feel honest or true to who you are. If your identity is, I'm just not a financial person, you'll automatically dodge opportunities to grow your wealth because it fundamentally clashes with your self-image.
So, the crucial takeaway is exactly what James Clear points out in his incredible book, Atomic Habits. Identity precedes behavior. You don't build wealth and then suddenly, poof, become a wealthy person. Actually, it's the complete reverse. The people who build wealth the absolute fastest make a specific, non-negotiable identity declaration in their minds first. They decide who they are, and then the financial habits naturally follow. They declare their wealthy identity long before their bank accounts ever reflect it.
Now for the best part, the Rewire Protocol. 3 steps to break the subconscious scarcity trap.
Let's walk through these 3 specific methods to rewire your brain. Step 1 is the scarcity to abundance collection. Basically, every day for 21 days, I want you to write down 3 ways wealth entered your life, and it does not matter how small it is. It can be a free cup of coffee, a 10% discount at the store, or just a helpful introduction. By doing this, you're manually training your brain to notice patterns of abundance instead of scarcity. And in neuroscience, whatever the brain notices, it actively seeks more of. Okay, step 2 is deliberate anchor inflation. Remember that anchor effect we talked about? We have to shift your reference point. You do this by repeatedly exposing yourself to your target financial reality. Read biographies of people making your target income. Go to free networking events in the circles you want to join. Repeated exposure scientifically recalibrates your brain's idea of what's normal. And finally, step 3 is the identity declaration. I want you to write down this exact statement and read it out loud every single morning. I'm a person who creates, grows, and protects wealth. Notice it says I am, right? Not I will be or I really want to be. This taps right into the core principle of cognitive behavioral therapy. Changing our self-language physically restructures our neural reality. It's incredibly powerful.
I want you to take a deep breath and really internalize this truth. The trap was never the money. It was never a lack of resources or a lack of intelligence or a lack of drive. The trap was always the story that your brain was programmed to tell about money before you were even old enough to question it. But hey, programs can be rewritten. By using the abundance collection, inflating your anchor, and declaring your true identity, you have the actual tools to break free from that old baseline. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I have to ask, which trap resonated with you the most today? Was it the scarcity loop just constantly draining your cognitive bandwidth? Maybe it was the anchor effect keeping you tied down to a past standard of normal. Or was it the identity economy, where your own self-image is secretly fighting against your financial goals? Take a little time today to reflect on your own programming. Because once you finally identify your trap, you can start rewriting your reality. So, which one is it?